I have many things to say about Cyrene, and yes, addressing her kit is one of them, but it's not the most important thing to me. No, the most important thing to me is addressing about how I, and I'm sure many others, feel robbed of the character we got to know, being pushed aside for an Elysia skin, and even worse, being pure waifu bait. Where do I even start? But before I do, I will be getting E2 Cyrene. And no, it's not from whaling, it's from me doing every side quest in Honkai Star Rail and all the simulated universe modes. I love Cyrene as a character this much. I've been hyped for her ever since I saw her at the very start of a tease of Amphorius. And it's not just because she's an Elysia expy. It's because I love her so much that I'm making this now. Cyrene was teased to us at the very start of Amphorius, and yes, she looked like Elysia, but was also different enough. We got to know her through Mem slowly over time, and really grew attached to her. And one of the best things about her that really made her stand out compared to Elysia was honestly her level of snark and spite she would show at times. Mem had a bit of bite to her at times when we would tease her too much, or if we would do something stupid. Elysia was not like that. There was very little snark or spite to her, as nearly everything she did was either teasing us or May, or pretty much everyone among the Flame Chasers. But it was always in playful fun. But Mem? Many times she would have a bit of that playful teasing persona, but she was not afraid to call someone an idiot, call out their actions, or even just be utterly baffled by how kooky the Trailblazer is. Now that's just Mem. When it comes to when we finally got to see Cyrene in the story, in Finan's backstory, I got to see another side of her that not even Elysia showed. And that was her pure anger and hatred towards Lygus. The way she talked to him showed she really wanted to kill him, which I don't think Elysia ever spoke of the Hersher of N like that. But more than that, in Honkai Impact 3rd, we only saw a taste of Elysia's more emotional, fragile side, such as how she handled the complexity of being the Flame Chasers' leader and the tragedy that unfolded with it, and how the government didn't believe that they could handle it. We saw bits and pieces of her emotional fragileness in handling all that. But Cyrene was different. She didn't have to keep up the facade of being a strong emotional support leader for everyone, as she, along with Finan, was just like everyone else who wanted the Era Nova. To herself, in terms of leadership, she was no less important than any other Flame Chaser. Now, Elysia was also the same, where she didn't necessarily want to be looked at as the leader, but pretty much had to take on the role. However, in Elysian realm, you could feel Elysia's influence everywhere. Everyone always had something to say about her, be it her personality, her leadership skills, recounting times they spent with Elysia in comedic or less serious situations. That was why everyone was standing by her in the Because You animation hit so hard. Because they were all comrades united under their quirky yet lovable leader. And while they still have one chapter to fix this, we have seen how none of the Flame Chasers of the past even interacted with her before the Eternal Recurrences began. And I feel it's such a waste. Cyrene cares for everyone, but we don't know how the others feel about her or how they even interacted with her. Did Mighty respect her much? Did Casterus and Cyrene get along well? We have no idea. Did Cypher constantly pull thieving pranks on her? We have no idea. Again, that was one of the things that made Elysia so great in the Elysian realm, was everyone had something to say about her. Cyrene was just like everyone else, stuck in an endless loop with Finan, and dying over and over along with the other Flame Chasers until they were the final two survivors. And we can see the absolute despair both Finan and Cyrene go through when they see Amphorius begin to fall into destruction before making their way to the world Genesis. And what's also important about this moment is Cyrene's weapon, her staff, which Finan, who would later become the Flame Reaver, would use. Showing just how important Cyrene was not just to the plot, but to Finan, as his final companion before their own eternal recurrences began. Now I ask of you, do you see that staff anywhere in Cyrene's kit in Honkai Star Rail? No. Instead, we got Elysia's bow again. I'll come back to this. But continuing on, we also see Cyrene show legit anger and contempt at Lygus, and even in future conversations about him, she shows that she really wants to kill him for all he put Finan and her friends through. Later on in 3.6's story, we even see that Cyrene was battling through despair and wondering many times if all she did was pointless, but she still kept pushing through for the sake of hope. We even see countless numbers of her body right before we go to face Evernight. This small Cyrene is the one we all got to know all year long. She has her iconic jacket, which Elysia never had, and apparently some people have pointed out her jacket has references to the Aeon of Destruction. She's got snark and spite, which Elysia rarely showed. She had her own unique weapon, which, yes, you could argue that Elysia also had a staff in her transformed state in her Hersher of Origin form, but I think you get my point. This is the Cyrene that everyone has grown attached to. The one that has been with us in this story for the whole year. However, that's not who we are getting. We are getting a bigger, thick Cyrene that we will only know for this one patch, as I'm assuming they and the Flame Chasers will die in this final story chapter. I hope I'm wrong, but if I'm wrong on this, then you can disregard this, as in the future they would give us more time to get attached to this version of Cyrene. And you want to know the crazy thing? I'm not against this form. They could have had Cyrene in her small form in the battle, and then when using her ultimate, transforms into her bigger form as a way to say, hey look, it's still the same character, but now she has grown so much more powerful. And why did they waste this design? Why did they do it? Because she's Elysia. And MiHoYo thinks that because she's Elysia, she has to look and do things like Elysia. At least gameplay-wise. The only similarity compared to Honkai Impact 3rd is her using a bow. She's not summoning a giant manta ray. Instead, she's becoming a galactic goddess that nukes the world. I really wish this design that I had grown so attached to was not going to be ditched just to sell nostalgia for Honkai Impact 3rd fans, which I am, by the way. What upsets me the most is they did this perfectly with Finan. He was the Kevin expy. He had similar poses, somewhat similar quotes, and they didn't ditch the form of him that we got to know. We see him in the overworld, in battle, and when he transforms, we do see what makes him stand out from his Honkai Impact 3rd counterpart, and it's so much more unique. Diabolic Kevin and Castellana might share similarities, but their aesthetics are wildly different. The sword is different, his wings are different. So much about him is vastly different. And that's the key thing. We got to see the Finan we saw throughout the journey and unleash the power that he obtained in all his suffering in his gacha release. Why could they not do the same for Cyrene? The thing is, all of what I just said, that was not enough for me to want to make this video. Cyrene's kit pushed me, but no, the final thing that made me spit out my absolute disgust at Hoyoverse was this. Her paid bow skin. Not just because it costs $200 plus if you already topped up. Not because it barely changes anything about her other than being a bit glowy, which W engines already do in ZZZ, mind you. But it's this. It's the fact that the big selling point of this bow is the ultimate change animation, where instead of seeing Cyrene's memories, it's Cyrene plus the Trailblazer for all your self-insert shipping needs. This pissed me off so much to see, because on top of costing $200 plus, it was just shipping bait for you, the player. And on that note, for someone so essential to Amphorius and cared so much about her fellow flame chasers, why in her ultimate animation, where she goes through the door in her ultimate, is it not showing the other flame chasers she spent so many cycles with? Why is it just her? You even have a menu overlay that describes her unique buffs. You could have shown all the flame chasers, plus March and the MC. When Finan transforms, you see all the core flames surround him, and you are reminded of all that he had to kill to gain this power, and then it hits you emotionally. We could have had that with Cyrene, but now it's, oh, look how cute Cyrene is. That's the only reference to the form we knew in the story. Also, if you are like me, the paid event isn't even worth it, because we all topped up for Casterus and can't even use the double top-up anymore. But I digress for now. There's also the issue of addressing Cyrene's kit, which I'm sure many thought would be the focus of this video. To me, that is the least offensive thing, but it's still worth talking about. I will stand by there is a chance they change this post-beta servers, but with the information we have and the Star Rail livestream showing her at higher Eidolons, it's hard to tell, and right now I'm not willing to give Hoyoverse the benefit of the doubt. Cyrene's kit, it's honestly conceptually fine. It really is. It's very strong, and I think it has long-term value for many different types of characters. Except at E0. Because at E0, her ultimate takes far too long to charge. You've seen the memes, guys. We all know that it takes too long to charge, and her ultimate is still charging by the time you've seen this video. Everyone knows that the requirements for her ultimate are way too strict. And the reason I want to mention this is because Hoyoverse knows this. The English beta testers complained about it, the CN servers were muted for complaining about it, but the fix for her is locked behind her E2 in order to have her work with non-Amphorius or Remembrance characters, because of how long her ultimate takes to charge otherwise. She is pretty much glued to Amphorius characters or future Remembrance characters, and we all know that this is the Amphorius final story patch, so who knows when we will next get another Remembrance character, meaning Cyrene at E0 will not be compatible with 4.0 characters. And everyone knows that. And that's why her ultimate taking so long to charge, even for Amphorius characters, is such a huge detriment to her kick. And again, Hoyoverse knew this feedback from the players, and they didn't care. Because they know you love Elysia, and you will go for E2 to have her working long-term like me. Worst part is, I was planning to go for E2 even before I knew of her kit. Just because I love Cyrene's character in Amphorius that much. However, we were robbed. Not because Hoyoverse doesn't know how to write good characters, Not because Hoyoverse doesn't know how to make a balanced but still strong character, but because the upper brass that makes all the business decisions said, fuck all that, milk Honkai Impact 3rd and Elysia fans for all their work. Take away the Cyrene we knew from the start. Put in Elysia's body. Don't give her the weapon she had on the Flame Chase journey and Flame Reaver Finan used in his ultimate. Give her a bow like Elysia. Don't show the Flame Chasers in her ultimate animations when she transforms. Give them more Elysia and tiny bits of Cyrene. And when we give her a paid event, make it where all the self-hurts can ship themselves with Elysia and fulfill their fantasies. I waited since the very start of Amphorius for Cyrene and Finan. And Finan, they absolutely did justice to. But Cyrene? They robbed us of what could have been to milk Honkai Impact 3rd fans. And honestly, I truly feel insulted. I loved Elysia for how she was, for how unique and fun she was, for her story, not just for her design. You can't just slap an Elysia skin on someone and expect me to go, oh, Elysia, I love her, I love her. I love Cyrene for the story she went through in Amphorius and the various emotions she made me feel. Not just because she was an Elysia expy. Yes, that got my interest, but it's the writing that made me love her and will make me go for E2. But the higher-ups decided to milk us fans for all we are worth and even insult a number of us with a paid bow skin that lets us pretend to date Elysia. At this point, I'm repeating myself. I'm just so angry at this. Because Cyrene should have been nothing but a huge celebration. But it's not. It's tainted by greed from the higher-ups in Hoyoverse. At least I won't have a guilty mind for going for E2, because the only payment I'm making towards her is being a battle pass and $5 monthly spender. All the jades and tickets I have grinded out in anticipation for her. I have not wailed for her. This honestly makes me worried for the day they incorporate a Kiana XP into the story in some way. I don't want to see my favorite female in fiction reduced in gameplay like they did to Cyrene. And I especially do not want to see her just shipping with the main character. They can enjoy them, they can flirt with them, but if they flirt with the main character, they better be flirting with almost everyone else. The paid skin, the dismissal of the Cyrene we knew, and how greedy Hoyo is being with locking Cyrene being a strong support behind E2. It's just tainted what should have been a hype release. But how do you guys feel about this? Do you feel remotely similar to how I felt? If you liked this video, consider giving it a like and telling me what you thought. And maybe consider subbing to my channel for more of my thoughts on how things related to Hoyoverse. Maybe consider sharing the video on social media to spread this around. Thank you all for listening to a die-hard Part 1 Honkai Impact 3rd fan vent about how they did Cyrene's release so dirty. Honestly, I really hope that... I genuinely hope that Hoyoverse makes less money for Cyrene than they expect, because it will send a message that this is not what we wanted. I think a lot of people are willing to forgive what I'm mostly vented about and are focused more on her kits and her paid skin, but for me, that's just what mattered the most. I hope you all have a fantastic day. Bye! Additional note that hours after I wrote this, that Cyrene actually got a V5, and it was nothing but a wording change and a nerf to Anaxa, if you can believe it. Do not spend money this patch. Fuck Honkai Star Rail's higher-ups for this. They actually are the greediest MiHoYo section right now.
Data received.